June 16th. Today is June 16th, 2022, and the time is 9:03. I'll note for our minutes that in addition to myself, Vice Chair Vaughn, Commissioner Gralty, who's running a little late but will be here, and Commissioner Tobias are all participating in today's meeting in person at the Commission's public meeting location for the first time in a very long time. And Commissioner McCarthy is participating in today's meeting via Zoom video conference. Commissioners, will you please indicate your presence when I call your name? I'm Chair Melinda Wood. Vice Chair Fong, are you present?
Here.
Okay. Commissioner McCarthy, are you present?
Present.
Is any other person with you at your location?
No.
Okay, again, Commissioner Tobias, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, and we will await Commissioner Gralty. Maybe that's who's, nope, that is not who's coming in the door. So I will also note the presence in person or via Zoom video conference of staff, Executive Director Harris, Associate Director Yosa, staff attorneys Knifer, Chang, Campbell, and Yamanuha, and computer specialist Patrick Lewis. For any members of the public who may be joining us remotely, if the commission's video conference connection is lost during the meeting, we'll recess the meeting and reconvene after our connection is restored. Please check the commission's website, www.ethics.hawaii.gov, for information about reconnecting to the meeting. If the meeting is continued.
Oh, it's not, okay. I don't know if I can get to it. I forgot about that.
Okay.
Patrick, could you please mute yourself? Thank you.
Okay, we are getting other people set up within the office here. Are there any members of the public joining us who'd like to identify themselves at this time?
I am Kai Lawrence. I'm Kai on your side with Kai News, but I'm also the co-chair of Citizens Against Crooked Politicians.
Welcome. We're glad to
Thank
have
you. Thank you. And would you please introduce yourself?
Oh, hi, my name is Carl Dix. Been a resident in Hawaii 34 years and recently got involved in politics, ran for mayor 2020 and running for Senate 17.
My name is Charlotte Rooscratz, and I'm new to politics, and I'm running for House District 26. And I was trying to stop all this corruption, and that's time to step in.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you for your help.
Welcome to all of you. And I believe we have Sandy Ma joining us from a distance. Would you like to say something, Sandy?
Hello, Chair and members of the Commission. Sandy Ma with Kamikaze Hawaii. I thank you. And no one is with me.
And do we have anyone else who's waiting?
There's a couple of people. We have probably maybe 20 people.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. How should
I don't know which ones are showing up on Zoom or which ones will be here personally, but they're all Citizens Against Crooked Politicians. And we're here to help you guys.
Great. Thank you. So, yes.
Oh, hello. Hi, guys. Good morning. My name is Will, and I'm the IT internship person here. And I just wanted to introduce myself.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Do we need to have the remote people introduce themselves?
It's completely optional if they want to introduce themselves.
Okay, so if anybody wants to identify themselves, they may do so at this time.
I hope Ryan is on.
Okay. So first on our agenda is,
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Someone from the public is raising their hand. It's via phone call, the 602 number.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Who
my
do you
name
got?
is Rosemarie Yauk. I'm a candidate for County Council Kauai. I'm participating via Zoom.
welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else out there? No, okay.
Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Commissioner Gauci wanted you to know that you'll be here at 9:30.
Okay. Okay. And I'll say for anyone who's watching remotely, this is the first time we've had a mixed, partly in person and partly Zoom meeting since the pandemic started. So we're all kind of working our way through this. Okay, so let's see. For those of you who are on Zoom from other locations, will you please confirm that you're alone and there's no unauthorized person listening in with you?
Yes.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes.
Yes.
Present.
No one is here with me. Thank you. Common Cause Hawaii. Thank you.
Okay. And I believe that Patrick has, our computer specialist has made sure that no one else is on. Patrick, is that correct? We've accounted for all the people that are on Zoom.
Yes, a few more people got admitted from the waiting room.
Okay. So, would you like to introduce yourselves? The two people that just joined, just identify yourself and let us know if there's anyone else in the room with you.
Hello, my name's
Hi.
Eric Sarafian. I'm running for District 37 House Rep. And no, this is it. I'm just here.
Okay, you're alone, huh? Okay, and I see a woman with a nice lavender headband. Would you like
Rosemary Yauk, candidate, Kauai County Council, and I am alone.
Great. Okay. Okay, so let's move on with our agenda here. The first item is the minutes of our last meeting. Consideration and approval of the minutes of the May 18th, 2022 meeting. Do the commissioners have any comments or corrections to the minutes? Commissioners? No comments? Okay. Does any member of the public wish to testify? The minutes should be posted.
I have a question. I didn't want to testify, but do you cut out or is that tape manipulated in any way edit wise, or is it straight out the tape from the actual meeting?
Question, Ethan, for perhaps our executive director here, Robert Harris, since our computer guy is not in the room.
Robert, I can answer that. The entirety of the Sunshine meeting is recorded and posted as is. The only thing that will be excluded will be the executive session portion of the meeting.
Okay, so it's straight out. So if the meeting is different from, like, say, a screen recording that someone has, you guys would actually correct that, correct? I'm not saying that you did. I'm just saying hypothetically, if we reviewed meetings and there were actually people here that videotaped the meeting themselves, and there was like correspondence or something that was said and it was cut out, it would be added back under the Sunshine Law provisions, correct?
Nothing gets cut out. I'm not sure. Nothing gets cut out. Nothing gets edited. Whenever we start the recording, to the ending of the Sunshine, excluding the executive session, is posted on our YouTube channel.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. And now we have that as public document. Thank you.
Yes, as a public. Okay, so first on the agenda here is Yes.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of May 18th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, are there any corrections, changes? No? Has any member of the public read the sunshine law minutes from the last meeting?
If I may,
Yes,
hi, this is Ryan Malish. I'm on the phone call because on your guys' website, the download page under June 16th, scheduled dates, the Zoom link didn't work. So is there, can I give you my email and maybe you can send me a direct link to the Zoom because I can't see the minutes at all. I'm on the phone.
Sure, go ahead, give us your email address.
Sure. My email is 808 Ryan, RYAN, 4 Senate @gmail.com.
we'll make sure to get those to you.
Patrick, are you able to send that?
I'll send that.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you.
It's exciting to have people listening in and attending virtually. This has been a long time coming that we could do our meetings this way, so I appreciate it. So we've got yes, we've got the motion and the second. So I'll do the roll call vote to accept or approve the minutes of the May 18th meeting. Vice Chair Fong.
Aye.
Commissioner Bralte is not here. Commissioner McCarthy.
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Tobias.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay. Perhaps for the new people, we should introduce the commissioners. I'm Melinda Wood. I'm the chair of the commission. I have on this side Vice Chair Commissioner Wesley Fong, and he has just been reappointed for a second 4-year term, so you will see him for 4 more years. Commissioner McCarthy is on by video conference from Hawaiʻi. Would you like to wave your hand? And we also have Commissioner Tobias, who also lives on Hawaiʻi, but came over today for the meeting. Okay, so we will now move on to agenda item 2, which is the executive director's report. And so Robert, if you'd like to take that.
Thank you, Chair. I think just as a quick start, I would like to note we have been in the papers and media a bit with regards to commissions to improve standards of conduct. I really do want to acknowledge all the hard work of the staff that have helped make a lot of those concepts and proposals that you heard last meeting that were proposed at the last commission meeting. I'd also like to thank the staff for covering admirably while I've been gone for the past 2 weeks. And so a lot of the work, again, I cannot say enough what a wonderful staff is here and how much I appreciate all their hard work. So I do want to acknowledge that before getting started. Turning to the education and training report, you have as an attachment the records from the last month going into the month of May. As we reported last week, or last meeting, we are seeing a noticeable uptick in the number of people taking the ethics training, which I think is again a result of the bill currently pending before the governor, which would require mandatory ethics training for all state employees, board commission members, and legislators. And so at our last meeting and last training on 5/19, we had 270 participants on which we are going to have to keep working on. Again, I think we do an admirable job in those trainings. We are trying to address some situations where somebody logs in and doesn't actively participate. We're trying to address a situation where somebody maybe doesn't participate for the full training and trying to wrestle with how do we give them credit, acknowledge, or require them to take a new course over again in order to get credit. And again, we are shifting a little bit more and trying to set a bunch of trainings, make them available and have people register for them versus before we used to respond to actual requests to set up trainings for individual board and commissions. We're trying to direct them more to these larger trainings just to be more efficient essentially. And we'll be continuing to look at ways to try to make that overall, hopefully a good productive process moving forward. We also,
Robert, I have a question.
sure.
We're all in favor of having mandatory training for the state employees and commission members. What's the recourse if someone says, no, I don't want? Or no, I don't want to go?
So we do have the commission's general disciplinary capability. And so you could do a count and actually sanction them. I think publicly, we have indicated we want to try to get as many people in the trainings as possible. And probably, at least in the beginning, wouldn't be focused on trying to do disciplinary actions against some that are taking. In essence, we've had a relatively small percentage of employees going through the training. If we get to say 90% of employees taking the training, we see that as a very good step. And we probably wouldn't be spending as much time trying to chase after 10% with a stick, but continue to try to use encouragement and trainings to try to get them into the training. We have 60,000 total state employees, board commissioners, and legislators. It's going to be a big capacity issue to try to get all of them through it on our part. So I think over the next year, a lot of the focus will be just trying to make sure we actually have the capacity to try to reach as many of those as possible. In a year or two or more, we may start having active discussions about how do we capture the stragglers more. But I think for now, it's more just how do we get that bulk coming through. So I think we'll be signing up for one to participate.
So there is legal recourse and it will affect their employment.
We have the capacity to do that, yes. I think it would have to be a commission decision on how to address that.
That's it. Thank you.
I'd also like to note, so we have the live Zoom trainings that we've been doing. We also have a online self-directed training course that we had 442 people successfully complete in May versus the high of 142 in March and sort of more comparably 35 and 44 in January, February. So again, a fairly large uptick in people taking ethics training. And hopefully if the bill does get signed into law, this will hold up and continue going forward.
And the question for you, since
Sure.
we have a fairly large number of people from the public joining us today, this ethics training is required of state employees, but can other people voluntarily take it if they're just interested in seeing what is covered in ethics training?
So the training is not yet mandatory. Hopefully, if the bill passes, it will become mandatory, or it gets signed by the governor, it becomes mandatory. But yes, absolutely, the trainings are available, both the self-directed, which is just a online course you can take, takes about 30 minutes or so to get through. And anyone can take it. It does indicate state employees, but there's nothing stopping others from taking and participating. In addition, we have a training website on our page, which has a list of all the trainings coming up, and we try to target them a little bit to specific. So if you're a board commission member, we have training set up for them. We have training set up for lobbyists, etc. But anybody's free to open up, sign up, take any of those courses.
Can I make a suggestion? As a member of the public and as, because we're concerned about the lack of enforcement of legislators that are misusing their office. There's a backlog of these cases that go back 6 years. would it be, I mean, does the bill actually include, like, if they are found to have an ethics problem, is there a class that you're sending them to that would be mandatory once they have, admitted that they had an ethical problem? Or, I mean, is there anything like that in effect with the bill?
So no, the bill is just a specific requirement that they have to take ethics training as a condition of employment. So within 90 days of the employee, there's sort of a little bit more complicated as far as like existing employees about when they have to take it by, but essentially the idea is once they have, there's a set period they have to take it, then once every 4 years thereafter, they have to keep going through the ethics training. So that's the bill in of itself. As far as the ethics commission's capacity to require someone to go through ethics training, typically a lot of cases will be done through settlement, and that is something that could certainly be a part of a settlement, rather than going to a full formal contested case hearing, which can be time consuming and costly on everybody. A lot of the cases do want a settlement, which then gets obviously approved by the commission ahead of time. And it has been the commission's longstanding policy we try to make the settlement that there's been enforcement and making sure
Transparency, that's one of the things that we're lacking, yes.
Moving towards the guidance and assignment statistics, you can also see as a part of the attachment, you can see the number of assignments, number of complaints, for example, received in May was 25, received 15 gifts, invitation, travel inquiries, 2 judicial selection commission inquiries, and miscellaneous projects, you see 2, so a total of 44 incoming projects that came in May. Similarly, we had 27 assignments closed out in May. And then also notably, just again, because we have a number of members of the public, we did launch relatively recently a anti-fraud waste hotline and website where people can report indications of fraud, waste, etc. And we use that. We run that in cooperation with the Attorney General's office. So a lot of times when those complaints come in, cooperatively, and Susan knows has been handling that over the past 6 months or so. The Attorney General's office and our office will sort of decide who moves forward with those complaints and allegations, figure out who's the most appropriate entity to run with it. And we received 9 of those in May.
Because there are legislators that are using the state capitol for their campaign. And I know, like in May, we actually produced 29 complaints with evidence, emails, use of, did you not get those 29 cases? Citizens against crooked politicians have put in 23 complaints or 29 complaints of wrongdoing. And it's documented. You don't even need an investigator for what's there. It's already there. We actually had a doctor of jurisprudence look at it. And what we're all upset about is you have a backlog of cases. We have legislators that have committed basically extortion publicly. And we're wondering because, I mean, you stepped into a mess. And I really want to thank you. And I really hope that you are serious about taking care of this backlog and going after politicians that are misusing their office. Now, you did have an executive director here, Jan, who there was just a Supreme Court case that released the information of her unethical behavior. And she was actually protected by legislators. And then she was actually given the reward after she committed crimes and ethical violations of being the director here. And it's so funny that during those 6 years, legislators, we have cases that have been issued to you 6 years ago when that director was a part of this commission. And those legislators were not gone after. So was this a quid pro quo? Because they actually were hiding her malfeasance and her unethical behavior?
Madam Chair, excuse for 1 second. Madam Chair, I can see the concern that the public has. May I make a suggestion?
Yes,
You have a list of these complaints that you filed.
yes, we do.
You have a list.
Yeah.
Can you submit it to our executive director and let him double check to see if we got the complaints and what the status is? Because right now, I don't think he can answer it, but we see your concern. Is that okay?
So
That is fine. That is, I can accept that. And
I don't think we
I
wanna
want
be-
to work
yeah.
with you because we're tired of the corruption in Hawaii.
I think
And
we-
you're our warriors on the front
Thank you.
line and we need you.
I think we all agree.
Can I
with you.
just clarify one thing since you talked about it? You're referring to Jan Yamani.
Yes, Jan,
She did not work for the State Ethics Commission. She's with the Honolulu Ethics Commission.
Yes, but it's still your job to actually investigate her. And this was public
We don't-
knowledge
we
that you
don't
guys
have-
had, you are aware of.
We don't have jurisdiction over city and county employees. That's the Honolulu Ethics Commission. that
Okay, I'm
does.
glad that you brought that up because Angela Topola, we actually have crimes that she committed. And she was actually within your jurisdiction. And then she left your jurisdiction and now she's a city councilman. And I was actually told, I actually have the post online where I asked, what are they doing? And they go, oh, well, she's not our jurisdiction anymore. Well, when the complaint was made, she was in your jurisdiction, but now she's not because she's moved on to another political seat.
So,
Please.
yeah, I appreciate the questions. And again, one of the challenges that we have is that any complaint comes in, we do treat as confidential. And then so it is difficult for us sometimes to communicate where a investigation currently is. And that's both to protect the complainant, because in some situations, the complainant may not want to be public about revealing something that they've shared. And it's also to sometimes, until we've gone to a level of investigation where we've actually found evidence that the commission then decides takes the next step. So the beginning parts of investigations typically are confidential. We do not communicate where they are. And so when things come in, I can certainly understand from a complainant's perspective of not necessarily knowing what's happening, and that's frustrating. When you reference 29 complaints, it's very possible that they're all being tracked under one complaint. You know, basically they're being filed.
But they're all different.
Even if they are different, it's possible just for tracking purposes because it came under one person. So you may be seeing just one complaint in there. But the specifics of where those are is difficult for us to communicate to you until the complaints, at a stage where we can actually.
Can I make a suggestion? Because with the Jan Yumi case, it really seemed that confidentiality and privacy were used as excuses for malfeasance and derelict of duty.
Just to be clear, I mean, Jan Yamane worked for State Auditor's Office. So
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah,
not
but I'm
part-
saying it's the same thing. A board, just across the board with all commissions, they are using privacy and confidentiality as an excuse for malfeasance and derelict of duty.
Yeah, no, I think plainly, this commission has been very focused on transparency, as I said, for example, settlements. And sometimes very difficult.
You're
to
our
do.
great hope.
Thank you, but I hope I've addressed the question.
Yes, you
And
have.
I have a follow-up though to it. My question is, what is the timely manner? So even in an investigation, what's the accountability if you're giving a complaint? What is a timely manner for it to be addressed, to get a result, to actually get anything back? And what is appropriate? Because what I'm also finding is there's no end in sight. So that to me is unacceptable.
I agree. We have cases that are 6 years out.
Okay, let me make a comment and then I'll let Robert go into more detail on it. This office is staffed with 5 attorneys who do the investigations. And that's not a huge staff to deal with, however many complaints come in. And I have learned through my time on the commission that the wheels of getting through cases can run rather slowly. And so we do ask for people's patience as we do it. And sometimes it seems like it's, you know, way too long. How long things go
What you're
on.
saying right now to me is just gaslighting at this point. You're just, if there's no actual,
Excuse me?
there's no actual.
I'm
response.
sorry.
There's no actual response. You have 5 people, then if you guys need to get more people, then should you get more people? The state's getting how much funding right now? I mean, in all reality, that's the issue. Ethical issues are very, very important.
There's
And
no one that
there's no
understands that
accountability.
better than this body. And I'm
Okay.
gonna turn it over to Robert because you accused me of gaslighting and
Yes.
that is very offensive.
Because it's just a typical politician answer, what you just gave. It's
I'm
an
not a
answer.
politician.
I
I'm a
know.
volunteer.
I
Madam
understand.
Chair,
I
may I
understand.
call point of order? Do you
Yes.
mind? I think she already asked her question.
No, she didn't answer it.
Well, I think she did. Okay. And what it boils down to is whatever complaints you have, I think you're asking for a statute of limitations after you file a complaint.
Yes.
Let's let them answer
Okay,
it.
great.
Okay, wait,
Please, one person at a time.
you need to be recognized before
If-
you speak. Let me
if I
first
may.
of all say, there is a board, there are 5 commissioners. We are volunteers. We are members of the public, just like you are. We are on this commission because we have the same set of beliefs you have. There are also 5 attorneys on staff who do the investigations. The investigations are guided by all sorts of regulations of protecting the privacy, you know, innocent until proven guilty, some of the other kinds of issues. And it does take a long time. That's all I could say. I have been on the commission for 8 years now. And I agree, things take a long time, but with 5 volunteers and 5 staff, it is very hard to police the, how many thousand state employees, did you say?
60,000.
60,000. And first of all, some complaints are not legitimate. Some complaints are. I'm going to turn it over to Robert. And
But
he
I
can-
really wanted to speak with you.
Okay, speak.
Okay, when you were talking about the attorneys, and that you have 5 attorneys on staff, that's amazing. We're gonna have a warrior team. But do these same attorneys, do they know their scope of focus? Are they supposed to protect the politicians, because the state employees? I think you guys are doing a great job with the state employees, where we're having a problem getting the ethics investigations going are with legislators, not state employees. They go after the state employees and it's fast and it's quick. And we can document that. We can show you where you're going after the state employees, but you are not going after the corrupt politicians that are sitting at Capitol Hill.
Madam Chair, let's answer her question first. What's the statute of limitations? If they were to file a complaint, normally how long will it take to investigate and resolve? That's what she's asking. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Absolutely,
correct.
that's
right.
Absolutely.
One person at a time, please. Go ahead.
Sure. So we do report statistics every meeting, in part to show the number of cases that have come in and sort of cases that are closed out. And I think part of that is to provide some transparency. I think what may be the missing factor here is that a complaint may be closed. That the complainant may, in most cases, we do try to notify the complainant that the case was closed. They may not be aware of what's happened. So it's possible that, and what I would encourage, Kai, that if you have a complaint that dates back 6 years, to ask, and we can try to find out if that complaint may have already been resolved.
I mean, I don't know if it's against the sunshine rule, so I wanted to ask, can I actually meet with you personally and have a meeting?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And I still didn't hear the limits, so.
So there, the
I'm
statute
sorry,
is,
can I have a dialogue here? Please?
Sure, understood.
You gotta, please, if you're gonna talk, raise your hand and then let the chair recognize you.
Yeah.
Please, okay, so we have order.
Thank you for that comment. Again, answering your question. So statute of limitations typically is how long can we be able to enforce something? So for example, if something happened and we do have a 6-year statute of limitations. So something happened 6 years ago, if we haven't taken action on it, it's potentially something that we can no longer address. It's different to say how long do we take to investigate something. I'd say on average, we've been turning stuff around in about 3 months or so. So, typically, and again, some complaints are very simple, like we're able to say, hey, it's not our jurisdiction, and they get resolved quickly, or it's not our issue, we'll refer them to somebody else. So those cases are usually handled pretty quickly. There are some cases that are just incredibly complex and have taken years, in part because we're dealing with, hundreds of thousands of records, et cetera, and they wind up just being much longer protracted cases. And so the average is shorter, but, just some cases do take longer.
And let me make a comment. Being a trial lawyer, both as civil law, and I'm sure the judge knows as a criminal law, that is a very short turnaround time. You file a criminal complaint, it takes a long, well, it's shorter than a civil complaint. It takes usually, if you gotta file a lawsuit, you're lucky to get through resolving it or go to trial within at least a year and a half. So anyway, I'm just making that comment. So we're doing it expeditiously. You have a question, you have to ask her.
Can I ask him, Mr. Fonda?
One last question, and then we're gonna. move
Okay.
on.
I seek to be
You were
recognized.
talking about the statute of limitations. When you actually go into like a civil court or a criminal court, once you filed suit, the statute of limitations goes away. So when we file that complaint, we should have something where if it takes them 6 years to investigate it, they get to walk away because of the statute of limitations, because maybe of a derelict of duty or
I
something.
have a suggestion. I think that rather than discussing this here, and I know that somebody online has been trying to make a
Okay.
comment, and I
Okay.
appreciate that. Well, let you.
Well, if he could just
comment.
answer that.
Let me finish. There are rules about how meetings are run. What I would suggest is that your group get together and talk with the executive director about this, and specifically raise some questions with Robert and talk with him about it outside of this meeting. Because as Commissioner Fong has said, he's been a trial lawyer. We have 2 judges serving on this commission. It's not that we are gaslighting. It's not that we don't know what we're doing. This is a very well-informed board. Things take a long time when you're talking about state government. And I appreciate your frustration. But I think what you need to do is, as a group, set up a time to talk with Robert. And again, because there is confusion between what goes on at the county level, the city level, the state level. And they're all different. So, your frustration actually is going in several different directions. And you can meet with this body and meet with our director, and he will help clarify our piece of the pie.
Madam Chair, just one comment.
Yes.
To answer your question, I use the word statute of limitations.
Yeah.
Only on the analogy is that after you file a complaint, when is it going to be processed or should be completed? That's the reason. A statute of limitations in the legal sense is that if an action occurred, you have a certain number of years to file a lawsuit. That's 2 years for civil and
Yes.
6 for contract. That's not what I'm using in that. And so therefore, it's a very short short time frame. From the time you have a complaint, that's a complaint. 3 months, investigate and resolve, that's very fast to me. I think you made one more comment now, something else, I forgot.
No,
Is that-
you answered my
Oh,
question.
one more thing, I forgot.
Yeah.
Please do not confuse our state ethics commission jurisdiction versus the county's ethics commission's jurisdiction. We have one state ethics commission which will cover all of the state employees and boards. Each county has its own county ethics commission. So the person you're talking about is under the jurisdiction of the Honolulu Ethics Commission. So I hope you understand that.
Yes,
But we
we
do
do,
not have
and we've
any-
seen
but
how
we
it's
do
been
not have any
misused
jurisdiction over the
in
county.
here with.
Excuse, let me
Right
finish.
here.
We do not have any jurisdiction over the county employees. Hope you understand that. I understand your frustration, but we do not have. I hope that answers your question.
It didn't.
Okay.
You guys are using that confusion. You've actually used it not to investigate a person.
I would like to move on to the person who is online that has a comment and hasn't been able to get a word in. Please comment.
Thank you, Chair. So couple of things. I guess there's a point of privilege to make everybody aware that I've been watching the transcript for the closed captioning during this Zoom call, and I've noticed multiple problems with the words that the AI is putting in there, so it's not accurate. So that's just something for your guys' record, that certain things that people are saying are not appearing as a matter of fact. You know what I mean? That's not what they said. So just so you guys know that.
Captioning, closed captioning?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Oh.
So I've
That-
noticed some words that they didn't translate properly, just so you guys are aware.
That's
And then,
electronically, so we have no control over that.
okay, I know it's being recorded, and so that was just for your guys' knowledge. And I can appreciate the limited resources to handle. The one thing that I don't think was mentioned, I'd like to know, how many complaints has the State Ethics Commission received over the last 6 years? For how many complaints for state employees have been received over the last 6 years? Or do you happen to have those numbers? I know it's just asking you on the spot here. Could you ballpark it, maybe?
I would be hesitant to ballpark it, but I can point you to where the information is to be found. So again, you have the attachment, which is a part of this agenda, which shows you all of the complaints filed for this year. In addition, every year we've been filing an annual report, which actually does a slightly deeper breakout of the different complaints. And so that information should be available. Going back 6 years, we can try to work it out. But
okay.
Hesitate to do that off the cuff.
I think he has a question.
Well, I don't know if you want to finish.
I'm sorry, were you
finished
finished?
your comment, sir? Did we finish
Yes.
with you, sir?
Oh,
Okay.
sure. Thank you very much. So the other question I had, which I assume, like, you know, this body's main focus should be on, you know, receiving complaints from, you know, whistleblowers or the public, and that should be high priority. And I understand that your resources are limited, but wouldn't you say that that's one of the major goalposts of this committee, this organization, is to look into that? And if that's being the case, how many complaints do you guys get? Unless it's just a whole bunch, it's kind of hard to believe that you get a lot of complaints, legitimate or something worth looking into, about legislators committing violations. I mean, that's a number that if you don't have right off the top of your head, I'm a little concerned, because to me it sounds like you're getting 10 or 12 a day. I mean, unless you're only getting a very small number, I mean, that should be something that you guys should know right off the bat. And I understand you're going to tell me to go look up the information, but it's just a little concerning. And I yield with that. Thank you.
You want me to respond to that?
Sure.
So briefly, again, we reported 25 complaints in May. We reported, again, 21 complaints in April, 23 complaints in March, 18 complaints in February, and then a low number of 5 complaints in January. The staff does do an attorney of the day, which is intended to respond to inquiries from all employees, legislators included, boards and commission members, who will inquire things such as, I'm being offered a gift of travel, can I accept it? And we will do follow up with them and then actually give, you know, opinion. So every day there's an attorney of the day assigned to try to assist people to make, to get ethic advice and guidance on how to move forward. In addition, as we started out, we do a lot of training, again, proactive training to try to make sure people are aware of potential ethics violation, ethics issues, to try to head off potential problems. So again, I would readily readily agree that one of the central focuses of the Ethics Commission is to investigate allegations of abuse. I just do also want to make sure that we do a fair amount of proactive work to try to prevent those abuses from happening as well, which include training, which include trying to respond to inquiries in real time. And we usually get several of those per day. And so, again, I do want to make sure that we are acknowledging that there may be frustration with maybe the perception that some complaints are being worked on, and I'd like to try to address that. But I also want you to sort of rest assured that we are trying to do our best job at resolve complaints quickly, cleanly. And again, there are a fair number of them that can be resolved pretty quickly. And that might even just include providing guidance to the person, like where we can't find clear evidence that there's a violation, we can at least reach out and say, hey, there's something that is problematic here, and we'd like to provide you guidance to make sure this doesn't happen again. And we try to do that pretty actively. But again, happy to address questions about specific complaints, and I think that's probably the best way to move forward. I want you to also rest assured that we're trying to do our best with the complaints that we do receive. And we always want more, and we're always willing to hear more from people.
Point of clarification, where in this flyer are you reading those numbers at? Chair.
There should be a
So,
report.
sorry, it's just Kara, I can answer that question. I just
Okay.
want to make sure that you acknowledge the question.
Okay.
So if you take a look at the attachments, there is a attachment number 2, which includes,
What page is that, sir?
so on my page, I'm looking at page 13.
That's what I thought. Okay, and I'm sorry too. The
Okay.
closed assignments was the 25 you were calling out, sir?
Closed assignments for the month of May was a total of 27.
Okay, no, well, just the number she was calling out earlier. Yeah,
So
I'm trying
sorry.
to follow along with you. I'm sorry, I got lost.
Sorry, new assignments. So if you look at the new complaints filed in May, it was 25.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
She had a question, Madam.
Yes, what's your question?
Thank you, Chair. My question was, and now I'm seeing this chart because I was also a little lost. In the chart and in the information that's provided, when you give a complaint, is there absolutely no follow-up to the person who filed the complaint at all? And then how, again, my confusion, so there's 2 parts, so that, and then the second part would be, how many actually have to go through this? Is this the totals, basically like the results of it? So they had to go to training, these people had to do this person actually got penalized in this way. And is there any communication to the person who's filing the original complaint in this manner?
Let me unpack that just a bit.
Yeah.
So as a number of the complaints we do receive are anonymous, so we don't have any ability to notify the complainant. So, and again, we want to respect the fact that people want to submit anonymous, so that's fine. As a general practice, we do try to notify a complainant, but sometimes if, again, the matter was, there may not be a lot of detail besides the fact that the matter is being closed, right? You may not get an explanation of why, because again, that might be confidential. But there is typically some effort to notify somebody if the complaint's been closed, or if it moves to something that's a formal charge, that becomes a public formal charge.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So then the follow-up close, a formal close, okay, so you get notified if they are not anonymous, and then you hope to anyway, is what I kind of heard, and then close formally. I'm still a little just confused on the closing part. So do we know that they actually got into trouble and actually had to, clearly on the record? Because that's where I understand keeping certain things anonymous, but if they are doing ethical issues, I feel like that should be made public, absolutely, to everybody, and should be readily accessible. That's just, is that
Sure.
possible?
Typically, again, I'm sort of saying it's normal, what normally happens. Settlements, which are a situation where there is enough there to show that there was a violation, usually are brought before this commission. The commission would have to approve it, and those settlements are public documents.
So you can find them online.
Online on the website.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So you knew already.
And they're kind of dull reading, actually. Some of them are pretty interesting. Okay.
Okay, so Chair, that does complete my report to you,
Okay.
which I can move to legislative session if you'd like.
Yes. Yes, and I think this may interest these people too. The next thing on the agenda is the legislative session, because we always are working with the legislature to improve the processes that we do. So take it away, Robert.
So with current bills, no new updates with regards to either the budget or the mandatory ethics training from the last meeting. On the status to commission to approve standards of conduct, we did hold a meeting focused on ethics issues on June 1st, I believe. That meeting is posted both on YouTube. You can find it at the capital.hawaii.gov's website. If you click on the House link, it will come up with the Commission to Improve Standards of Conduct. Just for background, because I know some people may not be familiar with it, the Commission to Improve Standards of Conduct was created by the House as a result of the public charges against 2 state legislators, and the request to the commission, I'll call it the Standards Commission, just to try to make it clear, was to file a report within, I think, 4 weeks with recommendations of what the legislature could do then. And again, that report is publicly available and posted, and it cited a number of bills that they recommended. In addition, this Standards Commission's tasked with coming up with a report due in December to make recommendations on how to improve government. And again, the charge is pretty broad, whether it be campaign spending, whether it be ethics, whether it be sunshine law, etc. So it's a pretty broad scope. What the Standards Commission is doing is meetings every 2 weeks. And at least in the beginning, we're sure trying to each meeting kind of focus on a particular topic. So the meeting that happened yesterday on June 15th, which I was not present at, was focused on campaign spending reform issue. Was focused on more election reform, election focus. On June 1st, we had a meeting on ethics, and that was a presentation that this board commission had already seen. And we got feedback from the Standards Commission, which is largely in support of a number of the concepts. There were a few things that they had concerns with. I will note, for example, one thing that this commission had concerns about is sort of the concept of a aloha civility rule, or trying to increase civility in interactions between state employees and legislators and members of the public, or legislators and state employees. And I do think the sort of the takeaway that I took from it is that we may need to look just at our abuse of power statute and potentially look at see if there's ways we may need to tighten that up. And the civility concept we may need to sort of let go from further discussion, but sort of tighten up, maybe looking at the abuse of power concerns. The other sort of takeaway, we talked about looking at ways to tighten up secondary employment. So legislators are part-time employees. They may also be working somewhere else. And so we proposed a couple of different concepts about how to address the potential of a conflict of interest. So for example, if a legislator is also an attorney working for a law firm, that might be representing somebody before the legislature, how do you address that conflict of interest situation? One suggestion was trying to move the legislature to a full-time and essentially require that be their full-time. And I think the Standards Commission did not like that idea. So that's sort of been gone. The other idea that we had actually come up with was basically broader reporting and disclosure of who you might be working for, employed with, or have some type of financial involvement with. I think is the idea that's still on the table to sort of move forward with and go forward. The idea is to be more transparency about what other types of conflicts a person might have. Let me pause there, see if there's any questions.
I would like a point of clarification.
Sure.
I was looking up the statutes because there is a person that's in office now as a lieutenant governor. And there was kind of like a conflict of interest with his medical and donations and stuff. And I was under the impression that he was a full-time employee. He's not. He's actually a part-time employee. But
You
there
mean
are
of the-
full-time
You mean
legislators.
of the state?
Ex-
You mean that the legislators are the lieutenant
Well, aren't
governor?
they employees of the state legislators?
But it is considered a part-time position because the legislature is only in session for 3 months out of the year.
Okay, well, I was reading in the laws myself, and I just, I want, you guys are lawyers, so you can clarify this or look into it. I found that one legislator, he could moonlight, he could have a job, but like the office of the governor, he cannot have another job.
So that is a relatively new law. I confess I'm not intimately familiar with this. I can't give the details.
Okay.
That's a relatively new law passed.
Okay,
And I think there is also a proposal, and again, I can
I
certainly.
think
look it
we
up
should make
on-
that across the board.
So the Standards Commission, again, is meeting every 2 weeks. That's a publicly noticed hearing. So you can participate just like any other legislative bill. So I mean, the same format of how you submit testimony, et cetera. And there's also a email which is available on the website. I apologize, I don't know it offhand. You can email and all that gets sent to every member. The members of the commission include the chair, who's Dan Foley, retired judge, myself as vice chair, Kristen Izumi Tao, who's the executive director of the Campaign Spending Commission, Sandy Ma from Common Cause, Janet Mason from League of Women Voters, and I am blanking on the other, but there's, I think, 2 more commission members that, so I mean, it is a pretty wide group of people that are pretty interested in trying to make a change. That concludes the legislative session, unless there's any questions.
If I may. Madam Chair, I seek to be recognized.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a question, we mentioned the legislators and whatnot, and I just have a question for this body is, what is the viewpoint on an ethical standpoint when it comes to the state capitol being closed to the public for the last 2 years? I'd like a response from all members. But what is the ethics from a standpoint of right and wrong? How does it? What is your guys' viewpoint and standing on closing the state capitol and conducting business behind closed doors? How do you guys feel about that? I yield.
Go ahead. I'll let Robert take that.
I think there's been a lot of public concern about the closing of the Capitol, and I think that's in part what forced it to be reopened. From an ethics perspective, we have a ethics code which doesn't necessarily apply to this specific situation. I mean, to be clear, so our ethics code will address situations like conflicts of interest, financial disclosures, and we have some specific things. Use of state property, like using it to benefit one person and not another, is something that would trigger us, unfairly. So, but if it's a uniform standard applied to everyone, then usually it's not an ethical concern. So I'm just saying, our jurisprudence is on that standards of conduct and not necessarily, again, there are some good sunshine, transparency, access questions that I think are good public policy questions, but they may not be necessarily something that we would regulate.
And I would add that the legislature has actually tried to be hard to encourage written testimony that you can submit online. They have forms and all of that. But unless you're aware of this process of being able to submit testimony online and how you do that, it does feel like the public is kind of left out. So, yes, ma'am. No, lady in the back.
Thank you, Chair. So my question though, in reference to what you were just saying, it still sounds like there's no accountability, because when you give a testimony, that's you speaking, right? That's you giving a statement. There's no public discussion and there's no response back. So I understand testimonies. I've been giving testimonies across the boards, but my issue with that is I'm glad that we're having discussion today. This is appreciated because I'm actually getting answers. That's kind of the downside of a testimony, if you will.
It's
You know,
true, it's a one-way street.
yeah, and to me, that has to change. There should be public discussions on a regular basis. There should be town halls. There should be areas where we have moments like this and in person, because otherwise they hide behind an email. You're not gonna get a proper response. Sometimes you're never gonna hear back ever again. And that to me is completely unethical.
So I would say this is a perfectly legitimate and wonderful topic discussion for the Standards Commission, because their jurisprudence is pretty wide and big. Our jurisprudence is a little bit more narrow, which is really over sort of specific ethics standards that people can't violate. So again, you can't, for example, have a conflict of interest where you're trying to financially benefit yourself by making a decision. These are types of things that we're very specifically focused on. So I think it's a great public, I don't want it to sound like we're trying to blow it off. It's a great policy discussion and it's a great discussion for the Standards Commission, but just this body probably can't give you a very good answer. It's not really our charge to focus on.
Thank you, Chair. Just a follow-up. Yeah, just a follow-up. See, I think that's where I have the biggest dilemma, because everyone goes like this, talk to this person, go to this person, go here, go there. I am having a really hard time because no matter what, I'm still not getting the answers.
Sure.
So doesn't matter where I get sent. And that's, again, the lack of accountability across the boards and this separation that keeps happening. I think it's actually a negative, and on the record, I want to state that all these divisions is actually set up essentially to protect these people of no accountability. And that to me is an ethical issue. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Just for the record, yeah.
I think I've been told numerous times, there's no law against being a jerk. Unfortunately, that may not be of any help, but there is not a body of law that addresses people who are just jerks. Yes, ma'am.
So my name is Antoinette Fernandez, and I've this kind of, I just want to say this and ask maybe. So the police, they're held accountable when they're under investigation. I'm not sure. And then they're taken off duty when they are under investigation. I'm wondering why, because they give an oath, why the people of the legislature, they are not held by their oath and then taken out of work until the investigation's done without pay. And then if they're found not guilty, return the pay. Just wondering, why don't they do that?
Let me respond. As a former legislator, let me just say, the legislature sets its own rules. And because of that, they can decide what they want to decide. Or they can decide what goes, what the ramifications are, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you're asking us to police the legislature in that regard, when they are under law, under the Constitution, supposed to set up their own rules. That's where the difference lies between what you just described.
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Why they take an oath.
That's why we vote, to make sure we got the right people.
Unless their vote's not counted.
Yeah. Unless your vote's not counted, that's happened before. And I'll rest my case.
Thank you.
Chair, just, we do have two people that have their hands up online, just to make
Okay.
you aware of it.
One of online person. Either one of you to start speaking.
Hi, Rosemary and Madam Chair, Board. Robert, welcome to the hot seat. I would like to speak to filing a complaint. I haven't taken the training, but how many false accusations are made? And just a ballpark in a month. And if it's a significant number, why are the allegations allowed to be made anonymously? Wouldn't that
Right.
cut down on a lot of research if someone that files an allegation with you folks has to provide their contact information?
Sure. So great question. I'd say relatively few of our complaints that we receive are false. I think more likely what the concern to be is that there's not enough information for us to take action on it. And in that regard, you know, we will try to verify the accusation. We'll try to find independent information to try to make sure that there's enough to then sort of move to more deeper level investigation, let's say it. So that's probably the biggest issue is, was there enough information provided? Or for example, is it really an issue that is in our Kuleana? So we do get a fair amount of those. However, if you get one complaint that there's not enough information and then 2 months later, you get another complaint, you know, sometimes you start getting enough information cumulatively. And so I wouldn't necessarily say it's problematic to get something that we can't move on. I think it's actually still helpful. And sometimes the cumulative information received from several different complaints then can sort of lead to something. So
do you get a
interacting-
large number of anonymous filings?
They're all required.
Well, I mean, we do protect the confidentiality. So we do get complaints where people identify themselves and we can then have the opportunity to follow up with them and get more information. We still keep that confidential. Still do get a large number of people who file anonymously where they don't provide any contact or follow-up information. And sometimes those still do lead to be something, a complaint that actually winds up going forward to something more. So, I mean, I think those in general have been helpful, and I wouldn't necessarily want to try to restrict that capability. So for example, if you have a small staff of, say, facility operators on one island, if they were to make a complaint, I think they're afraid that they're going to be, there might be retribution or people might be able to identify it. But if they file an anonymous complaint, they get some level of protection or concern that they won't be revealed. And they sometimes provide some very specific information that we can then follow up with. So again, I think the anonymous complaint process is helpful. Where the gap lies is sometimes they don't give enough information that we can actually then do something with it.
Well, let me speak to that. What if they provided their contact information upon filing of their complaint and it was anonymous after that filing point, so that if you did need to contact them in the course of an investigation, then you had that information available. But once the complaint is investigated, that it remains anonymous from that point forward. So that the public, you have access to the information, the public does not.
Yeah, understood. And I think we can certainly look at our forms to try to make sure that it's clear to folks. So even if you file something, you provide your information, your information will be kept confidential. And we do try to provide that. And then if we're going to move forward with investigation where we're concerned that we might reveal your identity, usually we still talk to the complainant first before moving forward.
And that would involve the filing complainants in the investigation and make them available to you if it was approached that way.
Understood. And thank you for the suggestion. We can definitely look at it.
I yield. Thank you.
Madam Chair, oh, wait, there was one more comment from someone up there, young man with dark hair that I can barely see from the screen. Sorry. Okay,
Oh.
yes, sir.
And
Speak.
can I be recognized by the chair?
Yes.
Okay, I had a question on what the burden of proof is for corruption, say if a politician has either been in favor or against a bill because of, say, businesses around them donating large sums of money to that politician. I know that in my district, the representative has been, or according to the Honolulu Civil Beats, the current rep poison pilled law around tobacco products and vaping. And a lot of people have criticized him because he got thousands from vaping and tobacco companies. How could someone prove that that's corruption in the event that it is? I'm not saying it is, but that's what some of his detractors are saying.
I'm going to reference back to Commissioner Geralte's earlier comment that under the Constitution, the legislature has some level. Sorry, a good question. Two parts. So the legislature has some level of self-control over itself, and that's under the Constitution. The Ethics Commission has some oversight over legislators, but it is sharply constrained by statute what we can or can't do. Your specific example about campaign spending is typically something that is what we call, there's a political solution to it. It's not something that is regulated. Again, they'd argue that those donors who gave money have a free speech right to give that contribution. And it's not something that is explicitly legal. However, there's a political solution, which is drawing attention to it and letting voters decide whether or not that's appropriate or not. So again, in that specific example, it's not necessarily something that there is a prohibition against that we're aware of. The Standards Commission, that is what I referenced, which sort of has a wider scope of making recommendations, can make recommendations to change the law, change the Constitution, Hawaii Constitution, etc., to try to address such situations. So for example, there is proposals to make all elections publicly financed, for example. Again, I'm not trying to debate the merits of what the solutions are, just letting you know that's sort of the opportunity to make recommendations how to address it. But currently, that's not something, for example, the Ethics Commission or the Campaign Spending Commission could do much about. But it is something that, the media and others can and should, make available and let voters make the decision they want to make.
Madam Chair, I would like to address three things really quick. I'm sorry that we're taking up so much of your time, but we really need this information. One, I want to bring up again that I think the anonymous and the transparency and the privacy is being used to actually protect crooked politicians, because we have whistleblower laws in this state. They can give their name, they're protected by whistleblowers. This privacy and hiding and keeping everything in the dark and not keeping this process completely transparent is unacceptable. Second, the sunshine laws. The mere fact that our governor set aside the sunshine laws is an ethical violation. I want to know why the Ethics Commission isn't going after him. And third, do you have the capability to produce a subpoena ducis tecum to these people that you actually get the complaint on? So like with the information, is it really up to the complainant if they find something? Don't you have a means where you can subpoena ducis tecum their email records and their information?
We'll leave that to Robert and
You got three.
Commissioner.
That's three questions.
Was it three?
So I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But it's if you guys could bear with us, because we're trying to figure out the process, and this actually privacy and confidentiality, we feel like is being used to cover up a dereliction of duty.
Answer your question in order. So yes, the Ethics Commission does have the authority to issue subpoenas. The governor's use of the executive powers to waive the sunshine law understanding the frustration with hearing it's not us, it's someone else response. Again, that's currently within the executive power in emergencies to be able to waive laws, and that's part of statute. That was some of the discussion going on at the legislature this year, whether to restrain the governor's power, executive power. So that is a legislative discussion. Under the ethics code, there's nothing that we could do about the executive branch using its executive authority to waive a law unless it was done in a manner that violates the ethics code in some way.
Can I ask for clarification?
Sure.
So they can set aside a law. Well, the sunshine law is actually because we're their employer. So we're supposed to be, it's supposed to be open and transparent to us. So any of the legislation that was passed while this sunshine law was set aside should be set aside. Don't you agree?
So sunshine law does not apply to legislature, just so, so again, that's a part of.
Well, it does apply to legislation. They have sunshine laws that they are governed by as well, just like you.
So the sunshine law, which is a code in the HRS, does not apply to legislature. It applies to the city councils, but not legislature. When they pass that law, it did not apply to them. They have specific.
Oh, wow.
They have.
That's wonderful information.
They have specific rules. They govern themselves. They have some rules that they have about public notice and public disclosure, but the sunshine law per se doesn't apply to legislature.
Is this only in the state of Hawaii?
I couldn't answer that question. Let me just finish up quickly.
Okay.
Your last complaint around public disclosure of complaints, I think I understand the concern.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's really necessarily a great answer. There's a balancing of interest here of trying to provide public transparency. There's also a balance of trying to protect against unfair or wrong complaints, where we want to do some level of investigation first before being public about it. So I'm not sure necessarily in a short conversation we're going to be able to get very far on that.
Yeah, well, may I just clarify and follow up with that? It's not balanced because we're here. See what I'm saying? There's a problem and we don't want to fight with you. We want to have this addressed. We want to make changes and we want the corruption out of legislation. And it's, you can sit here and you can think that, oh, well, it's not that much corruption. I'm telling you, it is. It's a huge amount of corruption. And I'm sorry that you guys are catching the blunt of it because you do work hard. And I have watched you and I've been watching your Zoom meetings. And I want to thank you for standing up and giving us this time. But we want you to focus more on the corruption and less on protecting the politicians or let's give them another chance, or, we don't want the kid gloves anymore. The corruption in this state, we are one of the most corrupt legislation branches in the nation. And you can't refute it. If you do, then you're not telling the truth. So, we're here to help. I'm not going to, I'm gonna listen to the rest of the meeting. We look forward to having meetings with you, and we do look forward to working with each and every one of you. And we do thank you. We don't want you to take this as complaining. We just want to take this vote and put it in the scope of where there will be balance, because we're not seeing that balance. And thank you, each and every one of you.
Well, and I would like to recognize.
I just wanted to add to the comment with regard to I should take this basketball, because it's very hard to talk through it. About the corruption or alleged corruption involving a legislator who's received a lot of funds from an opposing viewpoint. And 2 sessions ago, legislative session, this body tried to strengthen the conflict of interest provisions in the law. And what we wanted in that particular instance that you cite, sir, you didn't give your name, so I'm just going to point to you and say, the particular situation that you cite is very prevalent, where there's a lot of financial contributions to this particular legislator, and he stands up, and guess who's going to decide whether or not he has a conflict? The Speaker of the House or the Senate President? And many times, before the legislator even finishes his sentence, he's already been declared no conflict.
Oh, God.
So because of that, it's a very important point that you raised. Because of that, it's very easy for a legislator to really be taking money from a particular vested interest and dealing with the legislation without any scrutiny. So that part of it, I think, needs to be strengthened. We did try. The following session, the Speaker of the House basically said, I don't know how that got through me. I don't know how that happened. I didn't know that's what you guys meant.
Wow. Wow.
And we had to do something else. There was a promise that they were gonna do something right, and they did not.
Wow.
So that is a very key point that you raised. It's very important, and we need to work together, as you say, in trying to strengthen the conflict of interest provisions. Otherwise, we're gonna be at them already. I'm not here to campaign, I'm not running for office.
No, I'm sorry, that was perfect. Oh, Thank you, thank you.
Been
Thank you,
there, done
Madam
that.
Chair.
You did your time.
Yeah, I did my time.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to hold it up, but there's just questions that came up when you guys were all discussing, because I'm learning about all of this. But how do you make an effective complaint? Of what kind of information is needing to be effective, so it doesn't get kicked out? Is there a specific list or somewhere to go to get this information to make sure it doesn't get kicked out?
I'll give you a quick answer. I may ask Susan, it was also to help answer, because she's been here a lot longer than I have. It just in general, as much information as possible. Like who else was there, I mean, it depends on the specific allegation and what we're talking about, right? But the more information there possible, the ability to verify, like there was someone else in the room that heard X, there's public documents, like it was a public hearing, this happened. The more concrete information that can be provided, the more helpful that is. If it's just I heard so-and-so took money from so-and-so, like
Yeah,
that's
hearsay
not,
thing,
yeah,
yeah.
it's tricky to then do much with that.
We also have a complaint.
I have a hard time hearing
Yeah,
you,
sorry.
sorry.
We have a complaint form on our website
Okay,
that people can fill out and submit, and it will be reviewed by one of our attorneys. It's helpful if people leave contact information. They're not required to, but it's helpful because if we need to go back to them to get additional information, that gives us the opportunity to do so.
okay.
I just have a quick comment. We are all subject to the ethics code. So the first thing you gotta do before you file a complaint is look at the ethics code and see if it's a violation. But if it's not, you're wasting your time. If it is, then you go forward and you make the complaint that
Okay.
Susan described and Ron described. But first and foremost, there is an ethics code.
Okay.
And I'll say this about Hawaii. We are the first state in the nation to have a state ethics commission. We just celebrated what, our 50th? This is the first state in the nation to have an ethics commission. And we've done a lot of other firsts, but as far as ethics is concerned, this is the only state that I know of that forces Speaker of the House to resign. When does that happen? This is the only state in the nation where a trustee of the Hawaiian Affairs is forced to resign, or not resign, but is being charged with serious violation. Where does that happen? Ask yourselves that, those of you who are questioning, what are we here for? No other state does that. We are not the most corrupt now.
We're just asking you to do it again.
We'll do it again and again.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
That's what we're here for. And on that, I'll just shut up. I've spoken too much.
Okay,
I just had one other question, real
Okay,
quick.
because I do want to
Sorry.
recognize him, but go ahead.
Respectfully. So I know, I think it was Mr. Fong over there that was talking about, there was a statute of limitations for you guys via the legislature. What is that statute of limitation?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's,
Or was it?
no, I use the word statute of limitations and I explain as an analogy, from the time you file a complaint, how long will it take for us to investigate?
I apologize. I'll refix my question. You give the definition properly, but I think it was this gentleman here that was explaining, Mr. Harris, that you guys said that it's hard to hold the legislature accountable because they make their own laws. But then there's certain things of a statute of limitations for what you guys do to try and at least push anything towards them. What is that, or what is the time frame on that?
So there is a so Susan, please jump in and correct me. There is a general 6-year statute of limitations. So that might include somebody who did something unethical 7 years ago would be outside of our
Okay.
jurisdiction. There is a exception, which if they attempted to cover up the corruption, then the statute of limitations might be told. But we haven't necessarily had a case of that. You
Point
know,
of clarification, what is told?
yeah, sorry, it's a legal term.
Suspended.
So if they did a corrupt act and then actively tried to cover it up, then, you know, so such that nobody knew about it until later, that might suspend the statute of limitations. allow it to
Okay,
continue
okay, thank you for
forward.
the clarification. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The theory, ma'am, is that after 6 years, the witnesses have gone away. It's very hard to get the information when you wait that long. So,
Well, I'll reserve my comments. I mean, I know a little bit, never mind, I'll just shut up.
and I'll do the same.
And you had a comment, sir.
Yes, she answered my question about the form. I have another question. Where does the Attorney General State of Hawaii fall under the ethics?
Do they fall? Is that the question?
Pardon?
Where?
Does the Ethics Commission have authority and oversight on the Attorney General?
Yes.
Yes.
They
Ooh, good
individually
question.
are required to follow the ethics code.
Is that in regards to ethical conduct or performance? Or, because I've filed several complaints with the Attorney General, Clark Connors, and she did absolutely nothing.
And she covers up a lot.
Yes.
Well, she's no U.S. attorney.
Well, not now, yeah.
So, I mean, again, I think also echoing Commissioner Gralty, we enforce the ethics code. And so when we say that, it's a set specific number of laws that they have to follow. And that's different than just generally how you use the word ethical. So just, I mean, there's sort of our standard of code of ethics is a specific set of statutes that we look at and say, was this violated? And you might say, hey, that was immoral, is probably a better word, immoral behavior or whatever. We may not be able to do much about that.
I asked the question because if the Attorney General State of Hawaii was doing their job, it would take a lot of burden off of this commission.
Well, they deal with the criminal matters. They're involved in the ethics, but there's a criminal.
We have had interactions with them on certain cases.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
why aren't the counties underneath the state?
Constitutionally?
Yeah, constitutionally, it does break out. It basically requires there to be a state and each county to have their own ethics commissions. That's under the Constitution and why they're separated the way they are.
Okay, so like if you have a problem with like a county ethics commission, say if they're covering up or they're working with legislators not to go after them ethically, who would you report them to for their ethics?
To their county ethics commission.
No, but if
So
it's
you
one
would
of the
report it
commissioners-
to
Oh, it's one of the commissioners. Well, there's an easy solution to that, and then you go to the mayor, because the mayor will replace that person, hopefully. It's just like the question that you raised about the attorney general. Performance of the attorney general reports to the governor, not to us.
Yeah.
We can't tell her you didn't do your job.
Yeah. I was just
We're not
curious
her
about
boss.
the
Her
relationship.
boss is the governor,
Right,
right?
right.
So,
So is it the governor for everybody else?
I look for ways to help you guys.
no, I appreciate that.
Let me also add, if there's a violation of not only ethics, but of the judicial duty of an attorney at the Attorney General's office, we're bound by the judicial conduct, which can disbar us. I was with the Attorney General. Let me tell you, we worry about that more than ethical. You know, we're doing something wrong, because we get disbarred, I can't make money for my family. That's pretty much it. So they're the two-edged sword. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Chair. So I'm trying to figure out who to go to because I actually did give the prosecuting attorney a whole dossier full of crimes against humanity, and they were based on a federal level. And those is kind of what trickled down to the state level though, and the corruption here, it kind of points, hey, this is where it's coming from, and now it's state violations. And they wouldn't hear me out at all. And kept just deflecting, saying that's a federal issue and I have to file criminal accusations. But what I was saying is that whole dossier, all of the crimes against humanity that were going on, I'm like handing a whole packet of evidence to then investigate state workers, and this is where it's coming from. And I was just really confused because I still don't know who to go to hold him accountable now, and all the people who are violating crimes against humanity. I mean, there were 16 counts. It was a huge file. I went with a group of people to deliver it, and yeah, my meeting with them when I finally got it was basically all deflection, and they don't handle it. And I was just like, okay, it just didn't make sense to me. So who do I go to? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. Because as everything's so divisive, that it makes it so complicated for someone to just get anything done.
Well, I can tell you as a non-attorney, I would go to my congressperson or senator. Because I like to take a complaint right to the top if I've tried other avenues. I mean, I don't know if that would work. I will let other folks on the commission respond if you've got any
I'm just
ideas.
saying, government is very complex. It's not as simple as you folks make it out to be. There are so many jurisdictions overlapping different, and it's very difficult. I sympathize with you. It's very difficult. You cannot go to God and expect that these people down below are gonna pay attention. You have to know who's the God on this particular issue, right? Otherwise, you're wasting your time. So you gotta find, I don't know who the God is in your particular issue, but you gotta find out who it is first.
Well, so that's part of my issue too, because I know how the governor has so much power and he has not responded to anything and he's been in hiding forever. I have actually had 2 encounters now with the mayor where I've had to show up at different places to put him on the spot. And I'm still waiting for that meeting.
Ma'am, I have a
and
simple
then, yeah.
answer to your question. Go to court. Go to court. If you think you have a grievance that the governor is not responding to, go to the third branch of government. The legislature is not hearing you out. The governor is not here. There are 3 branches of government. The judiciary is the place where you go.
Wait, okay, I want to take people in order.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple questions and I'm gonna kind of go backwards because I was just listening and writing everything down. As far as for the complaints, is every complaint put on the website so the public can see it?
No.
Okay, so, and I hear that you folks say there's a lot of complaints. That's the issue. If we put the complaints online and the resolution, if there's any, I'm not saying to put the person's name, although I disagree with that. If I have a complaint against Commissioner Fong, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna put my name out there because I'm gonna believe that my complaint is valid.
Sure.
So those complaints that you folks get that are fought, those people shouldn't even say anything because it does waste your time, our taxpayer money. So if the complaints aren't put on the website, how do we know what complaints are being made? And that's, as a public, we need to know that.
Yeah.
And we also need to know whatever resolution, if there's any, or saying, we are looking into this matter and how long will it take for you to look into? That's my first question. Can I get that answer?
Sure. If you can indulge me just for a quick second, I think there's somebody on the line who's had their hand up for a while, just after this question.
Yes. go ahead.
Madam Chair, Rosemarie.
Oh, sorry. Do you mind
No.
if I finish? Let me answer this question first and then we'll
Okay.
turn to you. Okay.
All righty.
So I understand the concern. Again, we have to follow the statutes, right? We've got to follow law. So right now it specifically says that our investigations are confidential and there is no exception to that. So it's not that somebody could waive the confidentiality. There's just no provision for that. So it's a fair conversation about whether or not we should look at trying to revise that statute with the legislature and make it more public. I will say that there are definitely situations where I appreciate the confidentiality, where somebody makes an allegation, for example, of sexual abuse, for example, or some borderline on where their privacy is at risk. I want them to feel comfortable they can make a complaint and not have allegations be public. So there are definitely situations where you can look at that complaint and say, it is appropriate for us to be able to try to protect. There's also complaints where we would like to try to verify it because, again, and you guys can say whatever you want. If you file a complaint, you want to be public about it. There's nothing preventing you from doing it. It's more of us independently verifying. Like, we don't want to have a situation become an issue without us being able to substantiate it or verify it first. Does that make sense? So we want to be able to substantiate and verify and be able to say there is something there. Again, I think this is a healthy conversation. I don't want to say like, sound like I'm deflecting. I think there is some valid validity to like how, when should, maybe we should be more public sooner, and maybe that is a statutory change. And it's something we can sort of have a conversation about.
I thank you for that, and I need to apologize. I wasn't pointing at Commissioner Fong, it's just his name was right there, so I just said. I apologize. You know, you're in my eye level, so. Yeah, so.
No offense taken.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Get her names on.
You'll hear my name soon.
There's just a counterbalancing argument. People will not complain if it's not confidential. That's why when you report a crime, it's always anonymous. You see those things, what's it called on TV? Crime Stoppers? Anonymous. Why? Because that's what encourages people to come forward. Now, if you were working for Commissioner Fong and you had a complaint against him, you wouldn't want him to know.
I'm different.
Well, yeah.
I have no problem telling you what I
Yeah,
think.
because you're a tiger, but not everybody's a tiger.
I'll give you my card.
Awesome, I'll take it.
That's just the counterbalancing argument, that's all.
And again, I mean, it's much like a prosecutor deciding, you know, whether to prosecute it. They may want to do, they may want to interview witnesses without the witnesses knowing what's going on and getting all together and then marshaling their stories, for example, right? There is some level of evidence gathering where you sort of want to have some level of, this hasn't become completely public already, and now their case is blown, right? But once the prosecutor's ready to charge, then that becomes very public because they now have all the evidence ready to go, right? There is some balancing of stuff going on here.
Man. Chair?
Yes, you
Thank
said
you.
you had two questions.
In response to that, I understand all that because my background is law enforcement, criminal justice. So I get that. However, as you folks stated earlier, you folks have a lot of complaints that are sometimes unsubstantiated. It's waste of money, waste of time, and I get that. However, we do need to hear more from the people. A lot of times it's a stronghold kind of thing, you know, where the legislature has this power and people, public is afraid of it. That has to stop because in essence, every state employee and county employee works for us. They should answer to us. Now, with that said, the public needs to have the proper education so that we can guide our workers.
Yes.
They represent us. What I don't like is when I hear legislature makes their own rules. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. So how, guide me and how to see how we can fix that.
That's in the Constitution now.
I understand
We
that.
haven't had a constitutional convention in this state for the last, what, 30 years?
Are you
We're gonna
talking
have
the,
one in 5.
are you talking the US or the Hawaii?
Hawaii.
Okay, great.
The last time was when Hawaii was in the Constitution.
Yeah, we're not gonna go down.
Constitutional convention.
Yeah, great.
All I'm
So,
saying is that it's been a long time since we fixed a lot of things, and maybe there's an opportunity now.
and that's what I'm asking. Give us the pathway, because I have no problem heading it. I have no problem going out there and doing it.
Yeah, Constitutional
Give us the
convention.
pathway to where we need to go. And I say that only because everyone needs to hear it. There are people who are advising me in which way to go, and that's what I'm going to do. But I really wish that the politicians would understand, you work for me. I don't go according to you. The Capitol closing, my taxpayers paid for that, my taxpayer money. Why am I not allowed? There was a video I saw, and I'm sure all of you have seen a lot of videos, where there was a sheriff who was giving the people a hard time. I worked with that sheriff on special duty. Now, I know him from a different side, but as a sheriff, you need to know your position that you're standing in at the moment, and you need to serve the people. Yes, keeping everything in order. But that's what I'm asking for from you folks.
Yeah.
Give us direction.
Not to be cynical, man, but it starts at the bottom box.
And the bottom
It sounds-
box is the
It
government.
sounds very simple, but it's very hard to convince the rest of the people that you talk to that there needs to be change.
And it's not only at the ballot box, it's before that, going to all these kind of boring candidate forums and find out who cares more about ethics than the tried and trues that have been elected.
And I agree,
Vote for
I agree with
change.
that, but I think since COVID, everything has changed. The people are tired. The people are frustrated. Some people, and I hate to say this, but I am gonna say it, some people are brainwashed to believe that what is happening is what their rights are. Wrong. Your rights were taken away in this, through the governmental system. I'm not saying you folks. The governor, you know, oops, sorry, most people would say the governor is the top. Ole, the governor is on the bottom.
Yes.
The people are on the top. And that's why we need to teach our people, and that's you included. That's every person who's residing in the state of Hawaii. That is their job, to learn their rights, and that's what we need to teach them. But we need some help from you folks, and I say you folks because honestly, I don't trust the governor. I will say it, like I said, I'm straight up, I don't care, but I'm trying to be very professional. We need guidance from you folks. Where can we go? Where are the open doors? So we can start teaching the people.
And I think we can set up some meetings with the staff here and, you know,
That's
go over the,
beautiful.
the statutes
I'm
and
in.
make it real clear what this commission can do, because you'll be disappointed.
Can I-
You wish we could do more than.
Can I
what we do.
clarify something?
Yes.
With Robert here, he was saying that you can post your complaints online. So if you would like to see what this ethics commission has received in evidence and nothing, nothing has taken place, if you go to the website, Kim Pine is a crook, the evidence that this actual commission has is laid out on that website, where she stole $150,000 from you, and you, all of us. And they've had this information for some time and they've done nothing with it. Now you can go to that site, look at the evidence, you have the same evidence that they have, and then you tell me what you think, what type of job has been done with the Ethics Commission on that complaint. Again, the website is kimpine.com. All the evidence is laid out on that page.
Okay,
Sure.
we do have one more person waiting to comment patiently up there. Is it
Rosemary.
Rosemary?
Hi, Madam Chair, Board. My question is regarding the jurisdictional overlap and confusion on probably not just my end. I'm going to use a much publicized event here on Kauai. And it started with Arthur Brunn. He was the former vice chair of the Safety and Human Services Committee, if I'm not mistaken. And he recently was sentenced. He accepted a 15-year plea, but the sentencing judge gave him an extra 5. Did your office have any dealings with Arthur Brunn that started at a county level, or does it stay at the county level and then escalate to the state level? I was under the assumption that something of that magnitude would be handled by the state and not the county. This is a small island, Kauai, and you can't hide a methamphetamine addiction for too long. People knew here on Kauai.
We'll let Robert respond to that.
Yeah, so briefly, with regards to ethics violations, that would be under the Kauai, I think it's the Board of Ethics. I think you should be aware that many of the counties do not have a lot of resources for their ethics body. And that certainly is a legitimate, I think, public question, particularly from the neighbor islands of Maui, Kauai, and the Big Island or island of Hawaii, about whether or not those ethics commissions have the resources that they need.
And Kauai paid his salary while incarcerated
So,
until the end of his term.
so again, on the ethics issues, it would be the county. With regards to criminal conduct. So, to the extent that it was prosecuted, that is state, but that would probably be either delegated to the county prosecutor or through the attorney general.
But at the ethical beginning steps, let's just say that you worked in some capacity at the county building, and you could not prove it, but you thought that he was a drug user. Would that be something that you would report to ethics, or would that be something that you would report to the police department to start an investigation there? The overlap, I don't even know if it started at a county level as just a heads up for the ethics committee that you have a drug addict in a seat in the county council, and let them take it from there, whether they go to the police or whether they do the investigation to its completion and rule you out as being unsubstantiated. The state does not talk to the county. Is that it? It begins and ends at a county level. It begins and ends at a state level. But as far as I'm concerned, the county of Kauai is the state of Hawaii. I just don't get the overlap.
Let me weigh in a little bit on this, on the Brun case. Like you, I live on Kauai and was acquainted with some of the proceedings before the county council. One, when they discovered he was leading a methamphetamine ring in the county, there was a lot of controversy about his salary, as you pointed out. Several people tried to restrict, or not restrict, but overcome the county law about paying him as a indicted criminal. For whatever reason, they believed that they could not do that. I believe that the law must be changed to allow the county to go ahead and terminate the salary of somebody.
That's right in the paperwork that I had to sign when I registered for political campaign county council. It's right there in the paperwork. If you are convicted, you relinquish, you're terminated, you're fired.
Well, the problem was, if you are convicted, and I agree with you totally, but it was when he was indicted, that long period of time before conviction, that he was getting paid his salary. And
I know, but they paid him after conviction until his term ran out.
Well, that's really egregious and should never have happened. I don't know why it did.
Okay.
But with Brun, I don't know the discussion about the county or city jurisdiction. The feds got involved almost immediately in that case. And as you know, he just got 20 years in federal court. And I think when that kind of thing happens, the
I would
authorities
go to the state. If I had even an inkling that was happening, I would go to the state first, not the county.
Well, they went to the feds first because of the large scale of the methamphetamine operation that Brun was running. And
so there was no ethical complaints filed on Brun.
I'm not aware.
County level.
Not aware.
No.
I think it was just, it was considered to be a major criminal case, and the feds got involved, took it from the very beginning, and it resulted in this federal conviction of 20 years.
Okay, so ethics never came into play.
I don't know for sure, but I don't think so. I think when it was criminal, they tend to defer to the agency that's going to get him the most time. In this case, the feds, and that's what happened.
Okay.
And Rosemary, I would like to add that this commission can only deal with state employees and people who hold state positions. As a county employee, we have no jurisdiction over that. It's not like the counties go up to the state level, the more serious. If it's an ethics
Okay.
issue, it stays on your island.
And don't
And we
forget,
deal with the state.
don't
That's
forget
a
the ethics.
misunderstanding on my part. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I think it's a great question. Don't forget, the Ethics Commission doesn't have criminal jurisdiction, and they don't have jurisdiction over the county. They can refer to the prosecuting attorney or to the US attorney who does have the criminal.
Okay, that clarifies it for me. I'm sorry. I was under a misunderstanding that there was some communication between Kauai and the state, not based on the employee's position.
That's what drives all the ethical divisions across the counties in the state, okay? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a quick question. When you said that Kauai doesn't have, or the outer islands doesn't have the resources, can you clarify that?
So the neighborhood islands all currently have volunteer boards or commissions, just titles. And they typically will have a corporation counsel assigned to them. Typically it's part-time, and that's the resources they have.
If we did meet with, yes, go ahead.
They don't even have a filing system. You couldn't even access the information.
Yikes.
Yikes.
And to be proactive, our ethics commission set up a meeting with all the county commissions to talk about resources and, what goes on at the county level and what their challenges are. Now, we didn't have any fixes for them at the time, but at
Vote
least-
for me.
So we are aware of the issues at each county level. And I think we do plan on meeting with them again in the future because,
Knowledge is
and,
power.
and we're, us 5 commissioners, we are all volunteers too.
Thank you.
We don't get paid a dime to sit here.
You don't even get
Thank
lunch.
you.
Yeah, we used to get lunch.
Oh, no, that might be an ethical violation.
No, because we always conducted our business while we were here.
We're trying to finish with our
Well,
lunch.
I was misinformed. I thought I'd be in it for the money.
Well, you're in
Somebody
trouble.
lied to you.
Okay,
If I may.
Yes, go ahead, sir, online.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to offer that this commission consider passing a motion regarding I can't think of a better term other than triaging the amount of or the type of complaints, because I've heard you guys speak that you received 29 complaints a month or something like that. It's almost like a complaint a day is what it sounded like. But I think it'd be good for this commission to prioritize that. And I would say top of the list, if it has any complaint regarding legislative or higher up, individual public servant, that should be prioritized over some guy saying, well, hey, this guy wants to fly me out and buy me dinner. That seems mundane compared to anything regarding embezzlement or anything else, crimes against humanity, anything else that's done by or suspected being done by a legislative body. And the other thing I wanted to point out, I haven't heard anybody at this commission speak of the Ombudsman's office. So if maybe somebody could speak to that and what their duties are, as well as, and just for your guys's, personal knowledge, I don't know if a complaint's necessary, but when I mentioned earlier about the state capitol being closed to the public, which is horrendous, in that process, the process of law was hindered by sheriff deputies who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. I and another member here today, or another individual here today, Charlotte, she can attest to this. We somehow managed to sneak into the Capitol when it was closed to the public to serve the lieutenant governor and various others, and was basically we were denied access to be able to serve these people. And so I could only throw it on the floor and say, you've been served. And just that's horrendous that was allowed to happen. And when I contacted Bill Oku, who's the alleged sheriff, although nobody elected him, but I understand that's an issue with the Constitution. But at any rate, he finally responded to me about a week and a half later after multiple phone calls. And he said he'd look into it and get back to me on it, because I said, I need to get these people served. And unfortunately, the only way that happened, Mr. Carl Dix can attest to this, that we had to file it electronically. And I don't see anywhere in serving somebody where your only option is to serve them. Usually you can go to their place of business and do it. So that's not only immoral, unethical practices by people that swore an oath, it's also criminal. So I just wanted to put that in your ear. And then please don't forget about my other two, the suggestion of motion and the Ombudsman's office. Thank you very much. I yield.
Can I address that? As Commissioner Gralty said just a few minutes ago, when you have violations like that, maybe the Capitol being closed to its citizens or not accepting service of process, the place for you to go is court and sue the state of Hawaii. That's going to be your most effective recourse if you can put that together. And secondly, you mentioned at the very beginning about triaging the complaints that come through here and filing a motion to do that. I don't think that's necessary because they are carefully scrutinized by the staff, by the attorneys here, to weed out stuff that obviously has no merit or there's no jurisdiction. So that is done on a routine basis. And we do it all the time.
Is there a way to incorporate the counties with the state?
No, there is not. And I'd like to recognize this gentleman.
My name is Carl Dix, and you made mention at the ballot box. I've been fighting at the ballot box, trying to get that all figured out. Are you aware that the Office of Elections directly violated 12 HRS statutes in 2020 elections? And I took the case all the way to the United States Supreme Court, where what we asked for was denied. We asked for them to, the Attorney General, the Hawaii Supreme Court, and the Office of Elections violated due process. And we filed against all of that, and we're denied at the very top.
Was that because of voting restrictions or restricted places? What was the complaint?
Oh, which one?
That you filed?
Well, it was 12 for the Office of Elections already. Already they're in violation of our primary ballot proofs. They're in violation of 1221. Partisan, nonpartisan, they got them all stuck right together. There's so many violations in our election process here. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I spent most of 2020 from 3 o'clock in the morning to 7 or 8 every morning reading HRS statutes, Title II elections. I know it very well. And they're in direct violation. Nobody holds them accountable.
So, excuse me. Melinda.
I'll have Robert look into it.
Melinda, I have to take a break right now. I'm going to take a break. I'll be right. Go ahead, continue on. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so we have lost our quorum with a couple of people bailing out, so.
I'll volunteer.
So
will I.
Chair, if I can suggest making a break and just so the public knows,
Sure.
Our next things on our agenda is a matter we're gonna pass over because there's no new updates, and then we're gonna recognize the chair for her service because this is her last meeting. So if you guys want to stick around for that, it'd be wonderful because we'll have a chance to say aloha. And then we're gonna be switching to the adjudicatory, which typically is a closed confidential private specific. That sounds.
yes, so are we adjourned?
I would
Taking a break,
recess,
just
yeah.
taking a
Say a
recess.
5-minute recess.
Okay, 5-minute recess.
Let me grab my card. I'll be right back.
Now we're going to.
Quorum. Yes, we have our quorum back now, especially including our, one of our Kauai commissioners. Maybe I don't want to say this too publicly, but two of our commissioners live on Kauai, so they may find themselves a little busier but getting out with their Kauai residents. So I guess I'll call the meeting back to order. And do you want to take over? I do want to do the
Madam
formal
Chair,
presentation.
actually, I don't know if they want to stay for the Ikana. So I know that you folks are ready to go, but let me just make one comment. First of all, this is my end of my 4th year and I got reappointed. And in my 4th year, 4 years of being in commission, this is the first time I've seen such a big resident attendance. And I'm very happy to see that. Because at first I thought after 4 years, we knew who we were, what we do. So I appreciate personally the feedback that all of you have given us.
Our meetings are open.
And one thing I noticed that maybe was a Freudian slip, but somebody said protecting the politicians. We do not protect politicians nor any person who violates the ethics law. Our job here and our mission here is to uphold the ethics laws of Hawaii and do it fairly. And I must say that I am very pleased that my other 4 commissioners and I are very dedicated and we are here to serve the people. And let me tell you, the pay sucks. So, but at the same time, I must say that we're very fortunate, unlike some of the county, 2 other counties, have a very dedicated professional staff working. And I'm very impressed with them. I've been in government for 26 years, Attorney General's office and Court Counsel in charge of litigation. So you can be assured that we're doing our job. And you can be assured that we appreciate your feedback and we'll do everything in our power to enforce the ethical laws fairly and efficiently. So again, thanks for coming.
Mr. Tongman, Chairman, I clarify, I was actually the one that made that statement and it wasn't a slip. It is truly the way we feel because of the frustration. And like I said, we have websites after websites with evidence that we have given the commission on people that do fall through their jurisdiction. And you can go to those websites and you can look at the evidence that was supplied to the commission. One of them is KimPine.com. The other one is TomBergIsACrook.com. If you would look those particular websites up, you will see the evidence that was actually given to them. And it was given to them, and to this day, Kim Pines is a crook, has never been prosecuted for the crime of stealing $150,000 from citizens of the state of Hawaii.
Anyway, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for coming and we appreciate it. And the commission goes on. I won't be here for any more meetings, but you know.
Thank you,
I'm in.
Jack.
Ma'am, use your water bottle.
Oh, that would help too. I'll see you at the DOE.
Okay.
Did you, and did you have any more comments? Did you want to say
Oh, I
anything?
could keep you here for a couple of days.
Oh, okay. Well,
Moving right along.
yes. Okay.
Commissioner Roxy is at a doctor's appointment.
Okay, thank you.
Oh. So, let's see, do you want to touch, should we do our last
So
item here and you? you'll
So I
probably-
think that wraps up the legislative session and I think we can move. to-
Okay.
There is no update for the Ikana, but
Okay.
I'd say it's safe to skip that.
I'll just, yes, we'll do that briefly. So,
And I would suggest maybe the Vice Chair Fong handle item number 5.
oh, okay, so you get to do item number 5, but I will do number 4, which is Akana versus Hawaii State Ethics Commission and Daniel Gluck civil case number, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, there's several of them. And Robert, would you like to update us on the status of this case?
So no updates this time.
No updates. When things get turned over to the legal system, the wheels move really slowly.
I looked that case up. I agree with you.
Okay, but as you can see from this is part of our public agenda. The case is ongoing. We have not let it slide.
And may I address the chair and say that you guys did a fine job in the litigation of that case. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to the last item.
Item 5, all right. You have to stand up.
Oh, geez.
Being 30 years military, I have the privilege of, well, actually 4 years here at the commission. I have the privilege of presenting Melinda with a state of Hawaii resolution, and I'll read it. Whereas Article 14 of the Hawaii State Constitution affirms the belief of the people of Hawaii that public officers and employees must exhibit the highest standards of ethical conduct. I'm gonna take this off. Whereas the Hawaii State Ethics Commission recognizes individuals who make significant contributions to promote ethics in government. And whereas Melinda S. Wood has demonstrated her personal commitment to public service and has made significant contributions to promote the highest ethical standards in government. And whereas the Hawaii State Ethics Commission proudly recognizes Melinda S. Wood for her dedicated public service to the state of Hawaii and for her contributions to ethics while serving as a member of the Hawaii State Ethics Commission from July 8, 2014 to June 30th, 2022, having served as chair from July 2021 to June 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that the Hawaii State Commission, Ethics Commission hereby commends Melinda S. Wood for her outstanding personal commitment and contributions to the state of Hawaii and to the ethics in government. And be it further resolved that the Hawaii State Ethics Commission hereby extends to Melinda S. Wood its warmest aloha, appreciation, and best wishes, signed by all of the members of the Ethics Commission. Congratulations, and as we say in the military, thank you very much for your service.
Very interesting 8 years. I have learned so much.
Melinda, on behalf of the commission and on behalf of the staff and everything, I'd like to present you with this gift. And I hope that you totally enjoy it. And thank you very much for serving.
Thank you.
You can open.
I can tell by the way it's not.
And for the public record, no state money was used.
I was just gonna mention. make
Yeah,
sure
we were
you
gonna
get it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I have to think of something to put in there, or it may have to sit on my display shelf. This is too pretty to put into. So, thank you very much to all the staff and all the other commissioners. It's been an interesting long stretch. And as I was saying, I've learned so much through doing this that, you know, when I came on, it was like, what if I agreed to do?
So interesting experience will have to be labeled under sort of the, that person has a nice personality as sort of faint praise.
Well, I think it's the staff that does the incredible work. You know, we meet once a month and, you know, even if it's a long meeting, it's much better than these long investigations and phone calls and reading and whatnot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Let me add, Belinda, let me add my 2 cents. I want to congratulate you for your 8 years of devoted service on the commission and the last year as chair of the commission. You've done an excellent job and been a good role model for myself and other people. So thank you so much for your devotion to the commission and its work.
Well, I think I still have to come over to Kauai.
You still can come to Kauai.
Welcome. And to all the staff, you folks there that I can only see on the screen, Key and Nancy and Juanita and Susan and Brandon, okay, I know your last name's Yeoman. I can always remember the hard part, the easy part of things. Thanks to all of you. You guys have done incredible work. Great debt of gratitude to all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
All righty.
So I think that leads
I
you
think we
to
have to
the,
adjourn the meeting. I move that the meeting be adjourned.
A second.
Okay.
I would like to thank each and every one of you for the dialogue and the education that we received today. It was priceless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll do the roll call vote to adjourn.
We have one more.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would like to say thank you all to you. I know it's a volunteer position in our community, and I started Clean House Hawaii, and I've encouraged that group to be part of the commissions, campaign spending, the election commission and the ethics commission, learn about what's going on in our community, find out what the answers are, find out how we can fix things and help these commissions do a better job. They are way understaffed, they're way overwhelmed, and I encourage every Clean House member to help you.
Can you remind me what your first name is?
Carl Dix, Carl with the K.
Okay, Carl. The German kind of Carl.
And that's Clean House with the K.
Well, and you guys are well aware of Citizens Against Crooked Politicians, and I will see you guys next month.
thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have our,
Need a roll call vote.
yes, we need to do the roll call vote. Vice Chair Fong.
Aye.
Commissioner Braulte's not here. Commissioner McCarthy.
Aye.
Commissioner Tobias.
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Yay. Okay, so we are done with the sunshine meeting, and we will